Hello, hello, hello. Welcome, everyone. So sorry I am late. Traffic was an absolute nightmare. Fridays, man, Fridays. But welcome anyway. I made it. That's why I had to change the time to 6 p.m. instead of 5:45 because there was no way I was going to make it here and get everything set up by 5:45. All right, I want to give shout outs to people in the chat. Let's see what's going on. Oh, I think my volume is way too loud. Way too loud. Okay. All right. What's going on, Matt? Hello. He said, sup, party people. What's going on, Dan O'Neill? Shout out to Juice. Abortion is population control. I agree with that. I have some things to say about that. Greetings, Troy C. To have a child in the 21st century is immoral. Some wise dude in a comment somewhere. That's funny. Greetings, Quaker socialists. Hello, be careful. Yeah, oh my God. It was crazy out there, man. I can't go one Friday without seeing someone in an accident, like on the interstate. Every Friday, people are that, in a hurry to get home. What's going on, Greg? Shout out. Hello, Eric Gray. How are you? How are you doing? All right, cool. Troy said, better late than never. Greetings, Holly Horn. Hello, how are you? And what is going on where Pilgrim? Cool. So I think I saw some of you last night in the chat. The Jimmy Dore stream, and Nick was on there. That was a really good show. So it's great to see you guys again. What's going on, Delthea Simmons? How are you? All right. Don't tell the house slave, Sabby. Oh, I need to get my tea on. I have mine right here. Right here. Always gotta have my D, my D. Always gotta have my tea. Oh my God, that sounds horrible. I gotta have my D. What's going on, Phenomenal Mysticism? Hello, how are you doing? What's going on, Yep X? All right, so we need to talk about what is going on in Texas. Now, I touched on the new abortion law a couple of days ago. I think it's absolutely ridiculous, just another way to try to control women. But as of yesterday, something has happened. The Justice Department is now suing the state of Texas because of their new abortion law. So let me go ahead and share my screen because I want to touch on this. I want to talk about what I really think this means, what Biden's trying to do here, and I also want to talk about women's rights in 2021. All right, got my screen shared here. So here we go. The Justice Department. Oh, go away. God, I hate this stupid thing. The Justice Department has filed a lawsuit against the state of Texas. Now, before I play the video, I'm going to discuss this a little bit. So I want you to hear this. In its lawsuit challenging Texas' 6-week abortion ban, the Justice Department is throwing a Hail Mary pass to get over the procedural stumbling blocks that have thwarted, other attempts to block the ban in court. The lawsuit filed Thursday in a federal court in Austin relies on a novel strategy in seeking to halt enforcement of the ban, which was designed specifically with the goal of evading review of federal courts. The arguments that the Justice Department is presenting on the merits that the law violates Supreme Court constitutional precedent on abortion rights are solid ground. But the question is whether this lawsuit can get around the same procedural issues that doomed the earlier federal lawsuit brought on by abortion clinics. So listen to this. Let me scroll down here. Instead of tasking government officials to enforce the ban via criminal or regulatory punishments, the law deputizes private citizens to punish clinics or anyone else who facilitates the procedure for conducting an abortion banned by the law. Essentially, they want people to snitch. They can do so by bringing private civil litigation in Texas state courts, litigation that includes the threat of at least $10,000 in damages and the potential for a court order closing the clinic. All right, I'm going to come back to the rest of this in just a second. Let me go ahead and play this video. I'm going to cue this up for a minute, mute my mic.
What do you see?
Sorry, ads.
Will return. The first nation to harness its powers will be the nation that dominates the world.
Last week, after the Supreme Court allowed Texas Senate Bill 8 to take effect, I said that the Justice Department was evaluating all options to protect the constitutional rights of women and other persons. Today, after a careful assessment of the facts and the law, the Justice Department has filed a lawsuit against the state of Texas. Our position is set out in detail in our complaint. Its basis is as follows. SB 8 bans nearly all abortions in the state after 6 weeks of pregnancy, before many women even know they are pregnant, and months before a pregnancy is viable. It does so even in cases of rape, sexual abuse, or incest. And it further prohibits any effort to aid the doctors who provide pre-viability abortions or the women who seek them. The act is clearly unconstitutional under long-standing Supreme Court precedent. Those precedents hold, in the words of Planned Parenthood versus Casey, that, quote, regardless of whether exceptions are made for particular circumstances, a state may not prohibit any woman from making the ultimate decision to terminate her pregnancy before viability. Texas does not dispute that its statute violates Supreme Court precedent. Instead, the statute includes an unprecedented scheme to, in the Chief Justice's words, quote, insulate the state from responsibility, close quote. It does not rely on the state's executive branch to enforce the law, as is the norm in Texas and everywhere else. Rather, the statute deputizes all private citizens without any showing of personal connection or injury to serve as bounty hunters, authorized to recover at least $10,000 per claim from individuals who facilitate a woman's exercise of her constitutional rights. The obvious and expressly acknowledged intention of this statutory scheme is to prevent women from exercising their constitutional rights by thwarting judicial review for as long as possible. Thus far, the law has had its intended effect. Because the statute makes it too risky for an abortion clinic to stay open, abortion providers have ceased providing services. This leaves women in Texas unable to exercise their constitutional rights and unable to obtain judicial review at the very moment they need it. This kind of scheme to nullify the Constitution of the United States is one that all Americans, whatever their politics or party, should fear.
Okay, so I have my thoughts about this. First, I want to tell you a couple of things. So Joe Biden was the one that really pushed this, encouraged or urged the Justice Department to jump in, to step in and do something about this. But that being said, Don't think for 1 second that I believe that Joe Biden all of a sudden cares about women's rights. And the reason why I say that is because if he really cared about women's rights, he wouldn't have assaulted Tara Reid. I know that's controversial. And I know some people still don't believe Tara Reid. But I believe Tara Reid. Joe Biden, to me, has never really exhibited behavior that has shown me that he really cares about women's rights. To me, I feel like him doing this is more of a political move. Texas, when it comes to electoral politics, Texas is changing a bit. Let's remember how close the race was between Ted Cruz and Beto O'Rourke. That was a close race. Had Beto O'Rourke had even more name recognition around that time, who knows? He probably could have won. So Democrats know that Texas is starting to look a little purple. And if they can do what they did in Arizona, in Texas, and turn Texas blue, that would really change the game for Democrats. That would really change the game. Not to mention, there are a lot of transplants coming from blue states that have moved to Texas, California, Illinois, hell, here in Massachusetts. So things are changing. This is how I think about things. Like when somebody who is kind of sneaky, don't really trust them, and they do this big grand gesture to make it seem like they really care about this issue, but their behavior has shown otherwise, I start to wonder what is the underlying reason? Why are they really doing this? There has to be something in it for them or something in it for the party. And this really does send a statement. Now, that being said, I will say that, do I think the Justice Department should have stepped in? Absolutely. What is going on in Texas is not acceptable. It's just not. Most women don't even know they're pregnant at 6 weeks. So if most women don't know they're pregnant at 6 weeks, that means it's going to be almost impossible for women in Texas to get an abortion. Let that sink in. That was done on purpose. 6 weeks, really? Another thing about this new abortion law in Texas that is really disturbing to me is the fact that women who have been victims of sexual assault, they're ruling them out. So you mean to tell me, and I've said this before previously on my show, if a 14-year-old girl is sexually assaulted and she ends up pregnant, you mean to tell me she should have to have that child? I don't think so. So it's not really about the women. It's not even really about the child. They say, oh, well, that child deserves a chance. It's wrong for you to do that to that child. They didn't have a say-so in the matter. It's always about the children. They always use that excuse. But no one is protecting the women. No one's protecting the women. So the Justice Department has stepped in and they filed this lawsuit. I don't know if they're going to win this or not, but they did step in. What is frustrating to me, though, is that I have a feeling that they're not going to win this. I have a feeling that they're going to find some loophole that makes Texas keep that law. That's just the feeling I have. I could be wrong. But I could not imagine living in Texas right now, being a woman living in Texas right now after this has come out. We have set women seriously back in this country. I want to talk about women's rights in 2021. This is something that I want us to really think about. The reason why I tell people that America is a conservative country, a lot of it has to do with being a woman and the way that the government has treated women in this country. Let's go back. It wasn't even that long ago that women weren't allowed to work in this country. Just is what it is. In reference to abortion, this has always been an issue in this country. It's always been an issue. Abortions in Cuba are free. Did you know that? There has been this goal of our government to control women in this country. It's like if you don't fit into this mold of what they think a woman should be, they fight against it. They implement laws that prevent you from being who you are. Women have gone through a lot in this country, a lot. And I cannot believe here it is 2021 and they're trying to make us go backwards. Now, make no mistake here, because abortion is a hot political topic. Republicans use it to get Republican voters. Democrats use it to get Democrat voters. That is one of, I guess that's one of the issues that really can break someone politically. And you'll hear people say this: I'm Democrat because I'm pro-choice, or I'm Republican because I'm pro-life. Without that issue, we could be more united. But that is always an issue. Every election, they got to bring up abortion. Just something to think about. I'm going to go to some of the comments in the chat, and then I'm going to go back to that article because there's something else I want to read there. Don't Tell the House Slave said abortion is a fundraising bonanza on both sides. It really is. Did you guys know that back in the day, because people always like to link Christianity with this, so I just want to give you a little history lesson. Did you know that back in the day that Catholic churches, Catholic priests used to give women abortions? When people tell you that they're against abortion because of the Bible, because of Christianity, make sure you let them know that point. At one point in time, abortion wasn't even a part of the political platform. They made it a part of the political platform so that they, meaning Republicans, so that they could get the Christian community, the evangelicals. You need to say that word by now. Evangelicals, so they could get them. That's how they got that crowd. Look it up. I swear to you, look it up. Nice little history lesson. Leslie says, yep. A lot of people don't know that. So that gave them that base. They were able to get the Christians on the Republican side. Jean said, at one time, a majority of women thought women shouldn't be able to vote. Let's talk about that. So again, at one point in this country, women couldn't even vote. We had to fight for that. Women had to fight for the right to vote, which means that the men that were in charge of this country, that were running this country at that time, didn't even really consider us enough of a human being to be able to go to our city hall and cast our ballot. A lot of times when people think about the role of a woman, they see like this maternal figure. We're supposed to cook. We're supposed to clean. We're supposed to have kids. We're supposed to get married. And if you think about something, when I think back on it when I was growing up, I think about the messages that were sent to me as a young girl in society. Not from my parents. My parents are pretty chill, but from society, from television, movies, music. I remember hanging out with my cousins, my male cousins, and even at a young age, you could see the difference with the roles of men and women when it came to little things like toys. Little things like toys. Because I noticed that as a female, as a little girl, it was often implied that my toy should be a baby doll, a Barbie doll, a Barbie doll house, Barbie doll car. So even at a young age, we were already taught that as a female, we should learn how to be nurturers and caretakers. That you learn at a young age. Now, things are changing. Things are changing. We're seeing more, toy companies make toys for little girls that involve them to use like critical thinking skills, engineering toys. But it was not that way when I was growing up. And I would see my male cousins, they got toys like G.I. Joe, those little fast race cars, which whatever they're called. You guys know what I'm talking about. Those little race cars that they have all over the floor and stuff. They got toy guns, giving them the idea that as a male, their role was supposed to be masculine. They were supposed to be fighters. They were supposed to protect. Hot Wheels. Yes. Thank you, Eric. I knew somebody would know the name of them. Hot Wheels. Absolutely true. But growing up, I remember being in school and my friends talking about what do you want your wedding to be like? Even like middle school, already talking about this. Oh, I know what my wedding day is going to look like. That was a female thing. I didn't hear my guy friends talking about those things. It was put on us by society that as women, this is what we were supposed to do. We were supposed to get married. We were supposed to have kids. We were supposed to be nurturing, be a caretaker. You're supposed to know how to cook. Now, we see things are changing today in society. But for the most part, when it comes to these gender roles, America is still a conservative country. It is very sad that they're now trying to send us back. And we see this in life, not just when it comes to the maternal roles, but we also see this when it comes to jobs. Do you want to know one of the reasons why women are paid less than men? This is just one of the reasons, not all of them. One of the reasons that women are paid less than men is because we're more likely to go into jobs and careers that don't pay much. We're more likely to be educators. And in fact, except for one person, everyone in my office was female. Now there's just two of us. So that's another story. But educators, social workers, nurses, well, nurses can make pretty well depending on where you live. But again, that's a caretaking role. Men are more likely to go into roles that pay more. engineering, the sciences, accounting, math, and science fields. And that is why there is such a huge push in the last couple of years to get more women involved in STEM. Because I can tell you, I've worked in engineering and I've worked in physics departments at universities, and the number of women involved in those fields is far and few. Very few women. But the reason why we're more likely to go into those roles is because of what we are taught when we are young. We are taught early on to be nurturers, to be caregivers. That's why you're more likely to see us in positions where we work with children, students. It's ingrained in us at a young age. Nobody ever told me when I was growing up that I could be an engineer. They're telling girls that now, but nobody ever told me that. Go into some of the comments in the chat. Quaker Socialist said, my dad was one of 2 men in a team of 35 social workers for the county. It is a reality. Very true. I've been one advocating for more male teachers. I've been saying this time and time again. We need more men as educators. Wicked Bastard said the tech field pays quite well. Yes, it does. And in tech, because I have some friends that work in tech, same thing with those gender roles. You'll notice that you don't see a lot of women in tech. Now, again, they're trying to change these things. But there is something to be said that we're kind of programmed to go a certain way. And when you do try to break that and you try to go in a different direction, oftentimes it's not well received. Talk to some of these women that work in these tech companies. I have some stories for you. Talk to some of these women that have worked at places like Google. They have a lot to say. Thanks so much, Troy, for the super chat. A fin for the cause. You deserve more. It is what it is, you guys. So the underlying message that I want to get across in this episode is not so much just about the Texas abortion law. It's the overall message of controlling women. They believe that this is something we are supposed to do as women. We're supposed to have kids. I can't tell you the number of times, like when I was in my 20s and I just graduated college, I was living in the South. Just got to let you know that before I go into this. The number of times people would come up to me and say, do you have any kids? No. Are you married? I wasn't married at the time. No. You don't have any kids and you're not married? What? It was a shocking thing, apparently. Because apparently, as a woman, that's what we're supposed to do. Valerie said, my mom told me I could be anything back in the 70s, but it was mostly secretary, teacher, and nurse. What did I tell you? Those are the roles. Even now, like working in university, we don't have that many women faculty members either. Not that many. And when they do bring them in, like they don't even want them to have like leadership roles. It's just like, okay, we can say we have like 3 or 4 women in our department. Let's just sit them over there. We go into these meetings, don't let them speak. Let's interrupt them constantly and talk over them. Because at the end of the day, they don't think that what we have to offer or what we have to say is important. Now, they'll never say that out loud, but their behavior shows that. Eric said, what Sabby is saying is so true about the South. And yes, it happens to guys too. Dude, let me tell you, you don't have kids? I actually had someone ask me one time, like, are you okay? And I'm like, yeah, but my soul, that shouldn't be your only purpose in life. Don't get me wrong. If that's what you want to do, if you want to have a family, kudos. But that should not be your sole purpose. Down south, they made me feel like it should have been. Like you should have that. Like that should be your focus. Let's remember, not that long ago, women were taught to go to college to find a husband. Let's just skip over the whole education part. Don't worry about that. You go there to find a husband. Bill said the right and the law have framed this issue in a way we don't like, but that doesn't change the legal framing. It's true. Jean said, you should give up one of your kidneys. It would save someone else's life. That's interesting. That is interesting. Eric said, also, your sexuality is called into question in the South as well when you don't answer these questions correctly. That's the second point they would come up with. They would say to me, you're not married? You don't have kids? Do you like women? What the hell? As if being single means that you're gay. Well, damn. Again, they think that's your sole purpose in life. So all these years in this country, the government, society has tried to control women. They have put us in boxes. And if we don't fit in that box, they will make you believe that there is something wrong with you, or they will try to implement laws and policies to put you in that box. You never see them have this same type of behavior towards men. You don't see them telling men what they can do with their bodies. Roxanne said, who says you can't be pro-choice and not want babies? That's a good point. Did you guys know, this was a couple years ago, a coworker of mine told another coworker, because she didn't want to have kids. Okay. She said she just didn't want to have kids. Do you know, one of my coworkers told her that she was being selfish because she didn't want to have kids? Selfish. I don't understand that logic at all. I don't understand it at all. Going to some of the comments in the chat. Oh, Jean said, about the kidney, I meant to compare the idea that anti-abortion is to save a life. Well, then give up a kidney. Now, for the people who come forth with this message, because you'll hear this, that say that women shouldn't have abortions, that women should have the child and put the child up for adoption instead. I have two things to say about that. If that's the route you want to go, kudos. But if that's not the route you want to go, I do understand why, and let me explain. Two reasons. One, if you have to have an abortion because you cannot afford to have the child, to take care of the child, if you decide to carry the child, give birth to the child, and give the child up for adoption, during the time while you're pregnant, you're still going to have to pay for all the medical expenses. which you may not be able to afford to pay for that either, because if you can't afford to take care of the child, this all goes together, you guys. You still have to pay for your doctor visits. You still have to pay for your labor. Having a kid is expensive. Talk to people who have had children and ask them about their hospital bill that they got after they had a baby in the hospital. So you may end up in debt because of that. If you don't have the money, you don't have the funds, you can't do it. So that's one reason. The other reason is I have two friends that have been adopted. Their stories are interesting. Some women may not be able to handle the fact that they have a child out there somewhere, because that's one of those things I think that you would never forget that. My friends have told me there's not a day that goes by that they don't, wonder or question who their real mom is. And that can be a never ending, question. Never ending question. I don't know what that's like. I wasn't adopted, but my friends have told me about their experience. They can remember the day they were told that they were adopted and the moment from then, every time wondering who their real mom was. One of them tried to find their mom. Didn't work out. Not everybody can live with that. Shout out to Gina for the super chat. I'm an aerospace engineer and I was one of 6 graduating in my class. I'm always bothered at work by creepy men asking when I'm having babies, being assaulted, etc. Spite and a love of space keeps me going. See what I'm saying? Everybody just heard Gina's experience. Thanks so much for the super chat, Gina. This is everyday life, everyday reality for women. Women who are in those spaces where they were kind of, not wanted to be in the first place. This is what they have to put up with. Thanks so much, Gina. Much respect. Jean said, I wish men had to carry a baby full term and breastfeed for 2 years. That reminds me of that movie. Oh my God, the movie with Arnold Schwarzenegger and he was pregnant. Oh, Junior. That was a funny movie. Funny movie. Eric said, keep in mind that we live in the same country that makes you pay to hold your own kid. So when people come to you and they say, well, those women should carry the baby and give the baby up for adoption, that's when you come back at them and say, well, they can't afford the medical expenses. Maybe that's why everyone should have health care in this country. Just a point, just a point. I'm going to go back to that article because there was something else about the Supreme Court that I wanted to show you. Share my screen. I don't know what this is about. Okay. Let me go down here because there was something said about the Supreme Court and I was like, what? Give me just a second. It may not have been this one. Okay. I don't think it was this one. But anyway, basically what I read, it said that that the administration, Biden administration, was appalled and I guess surprised by the decision of the Supreme Court. Really? You do realize the Supreme Court is conservative, right? You're surprised? Really? Come on, they put Amy Barrett in there. You got Kavanaugh there. You really surprised? Thanks so much, Delthea, for the super chat. If you're Black and pregnant, you are 3 times more likely to die in childbirth. When I see a rally about that, then I'll buy the pro-life rhetoric. That is very true. Thanks so much, Delthea, for the super chat, because doctors don't want to hear about Black women's pain. Serena Williams went through that. See, some people tried to say, well, maybe that's because, Black women are not insured or underinsured. So they don't give as much attention to you because you don't have insurance. But then Serena Williams came out with her story, what she went through having her daughter. Serena Williams has insurance. Serena Williams is rich. Serena Williams is a celebrity. And even with her doctor did not want to hear about her pain. Look up that story, because Serena Williams said, had she not gotten a second opinion, she could have died. Doctor didn't believe she was in pain. They teach doctors in medical school. They're teaching them that Black people don't feel pain. Do you guys know about this? Valerie said the DOJ won't win this battle, sadly. The SCOTUS will use this to overturn Roe versus Wade, and women are in deep trouble from here on out. This is very true. I am concerned. I am worried. I think we all should be worried about this, whether you're male or female, because if they can do this, if they can go back and overturn Roe v. Wade, what else can they go back and overturn? Sterling said Biden is a fascist now, not a Democrat. Oh my gosh. Yes, yes, yes. Noli D said to promote fetal health by intervening in maternal conduct, a woman's decision to carry her pregnancy to term, does not mean that she will put the interests of the fetus ahead of her own, and it does not give rise to a state obligation to control maternal behavior for the unborn well-being. There you go. Mr. X said, what am I missing here? Texas didn't outlaw abortion. You still have an abortion up to 6 weeks. Yeah. So Mr. X, you might have missed that part in the beginning, but the problem is most women don't know they're pregnant until they're 6 weeks pregnant. That's the problem. People don't find out as early as you would think. Even some of the pregnancy tests, they'll tell you, like, even I think there's one called First Response or something like that. That one's supposed to be like the fastest or whatever, but even some of the like pregnancy tests that you buy may not even be accurate if you test yourself before then. That's the problem. Leslie said Biden was always a fascist. So let me show you exactly how violence has been committed against women. There's 6 ways women's human rights are violated around the world. I want to share my screen. I want you guys to see this. Violence against women, 6 ways women's human rights are violated around the world. The first one, intimate partner violence. 1 in 3 women worldwide has experienced physical or sexual abuse. Most often, this violence is committed by an intimate partner. That is true. It's usually someone that you're in a relationship with or someone that you know. Physical and mental health consequences are severe. 38% of all murders of women are committed by male intimate partners. It goes on there. I'm not going to go through all of it. Here's another way: female genital mutilation / cutting. This does happen, you guys. Over 200 million women worldwide are living with female genital cutting and mutilation, a practice that includes many health risks, including hemorrhage, infertility, ongoing severe pelvic pain, complications in childbirth, HIV, psychological trauma, and death. Number 3, child marriage. Child marriage is one of the most damaging forms of violence. 25 million child marriages were prevented in the last decade, but still over 150 million girls are likely to marry by 2030. Every year, 12 million girls are married before they turn 18. Guys, I didn't even know who I was before I was 18 years old. Could you imagine getting married? Number 4, humanitarian crisis. Humanitarian crisis, including conflict and post-conflict situations, increase women's vulnerability to violence. In some crisis-affected countries, 70% of women experience gender-based violence. More than half of all maternal, newborn, and child deaths occur in humanitarian settings. Human trafficking. This is another one. Living in a fragile and humanitarian context are forced mitigation puts women and girls at risk for human trafficking. 71% of all human traffic victims worldwide are women and girls. You guys hear this? Economic inequalities. Violence against women and girls negatively impacts the woman's capacity to fully access the right to education, employment, and civic life. The cost of violence against women was estimated by the UN in 2016 at 2% of the global gross domestic product. That's approximately 1.5 trillion. Excuse me, I almost said children. 1.5 trillion, you guys. Or the size of the economy of Canada. Let me pop out. These are some of the things that women are dealing with across the world, not just the United States. And those examples that I just showed you, again, it's all about control. These are ways that they control women. Who are you to mutilate someone? In some countries, the women have no say-so of that whatsoever. Could you imagine? Hi, Steve. Sam brought up a good point. Some men wish they were never circumcised or had traumatic experiences. I've heard some women had their babies circumcised without their consent. That does happen. I didn't know about that, Sam, about like some men wish that as well. I didn't realize that. Sam goes on to say women respond in this issue by saying men should be forced vasectomies. We need education mostly in bodily autonomy for everyone. Yeah, it's just this has always been a problem. Like always trying to the control aspect of it. The control aspect. Phenomenal Mysticism said, I oppose male genital mutilation and female genital mutilation. I will not call male genital mutilation circumcision. My opposition towards MGM helped waking him up politically. That's an interesting concept, you guys. Eric Gray said, as men, we need to advocate and fight against this mess in tandem with women. And this is how men can be allies for women. Listen, if you're at the workplace, maybe you're at the bar, and you see some of your your male coworkers or your friends treating women in such a way. You see them harassing women, not treating women with respect. It goes a far, it goes a long way for another male to step in and tell them not to do that and the reason why and why what they're doing is wrong. Because women, like, we can tell them all day, right? Like it's us, so we can tell them all day long. But for another man to step in and to tell them, that to me speaks volumes. And that's being an ally. I agree with you, Eric. I agree. Matt said, can we all just take a moment and thank Sabby for having an abortion conversation with a bunch of dudes? I think it is mostly guys in the chat. I think so. Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things, you guys. And here's the thing, you can use all the protection in the world. Condoms can break. Birth control sometimes don't work 100%. So you can use all the protection in the world, and because you don't want to end up in that situation. You don't want to be pregnant, and then you still end up getting pregnant anyway. So I've heard people make comments like, well, they should just use protection and they wouldn't end up in that situation. That's not necessarily true. It happens. Now we've gone into a sex conversation. What is happening here? Valerie said, got that right. Women have an equal desire to have sex for the joy of it. Men always do. You say it, Valerie. That is so true. That is so true. You were talking to, who are you responding to? Oh, Noli D. That was so, oh man, you let the cat out the bag. Noli said, thank you, Sabby. You are amazing. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Yep, X said, never really seen women disrespected in the workplace. I prefer to be alone and choose jobs where I can be. Oh man, oh man. Eric said it should be the woman's choice until they cut the cord. It's interesting. I mean, like, I'm telling you, if you take abortion out of the equation politically, what do they have? What do they have? I have 4 minutes left, you guys. Oh, I forgot to do something. Because I will forget. I will forget. Guys, I will be on my channel live at 7:30 tonight. I'm gonna eat dinner and then jump on that stream because I don't know why I just said it like that. It's Friday, man. What the heck? Um, I need to make sure I tweet that out because I won't forget. I be forgetting stuff. Forget. Um, Matt said, as a man who does stand up for women, I get into a lot of fights at bars. But I don't mind. I stop so many women from getting hit. There you go, Matt. There you go. Stepping in. Stepping in. I think one day I think I'm gonna see if Meg wants to do this with me. I think I'm gonna do a show one day about about dating, uh, and how to approach women. Because I have a lot to say about that. I thought about that, Matt, because you mentioned the whole bar situation. And one of the things that used to drive me crazy is like, especially like when I was an undergrad, me and my girlfriends, we'd go out to the club. I know some of you are like, what? Like, yeah, I used to go clubbing back in the day. Um, that was like my jam. But we used to go clubbing and we only would go clubbing because we wanted to dance. That was it. That was the only reason. We wanted to go and dance, have a good time, have a couple drinks. That's it. Never went clubbing to look for guys. And one of the things that used to drive us crazy is we'd all go out into the dance floor, get in our little circle. You know how it is. Us female, like we all get in a little huddle together and start dancing, and we're dancing with each other. And all of a sudden, here comes some dude, and he'll just get up behind you and start being like, "Poof, mm, 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 mm." And we would that would just we did not like that. We did not like that. Like, ask us to dance. Don't try to do the sneaky thing where let me just come up behind you and start dancing with you. You can't see my face and you don't know who I am. And we really did not like that. Really didn't like that. But it was just one of those things where I was just like, dude, we just came here to dance with each other. Like, we really not trying to like hook up with you. We're really not trying to like take you home. And that used to drive me crazy. Like, just ask. Like, if you want to ask a woman out or take a woman out or get to know her, just ask. Don't do that sneaky thing where you I remember being a young girl watching Jersey Shore and that Snooki situation happened. Yeah, I remember that too. I remember that. But yeah, that used to drive me crazy. I'll do a separate show about that. It's 7 o'clock, guys. I gotta go. I need to grab some food, and then I'll be back on my channel for my 7:30 Friday show. That'll be fun. I'm gonna have a little beverage with me. Come join me. We're gonna talk about Andrew Yang. We're gonna talk about AOC's ridiculousness that just happened, and we're gonna talk about Biden's jab mandate. So, see you guys shortly. Bye.